In life, I think it's really easy to get lost in the storms. It's really easy to get lost in the Sea of Galilee. It's really easy to get lost in the turmoil. And it's really easy to stare at the rocks that are ahead of you and let that shake your foundation. And the promise that God has always made us and always will make us is that he's going to be there. In the good times, to be honest, it's a lot harder to see him because everything's going good. You feel like I'm getting this taken care of on my own means. You don't really lean into God. It's a lot harder to see God whenever everything is clear. But in those moments of hardship, in those moments where you see that ship going to those rocks, whenever you're on that boat, just like the fishermen were, and they didn't know what was going to happen, and they were looking in the Sea of Galilee, and the storm was just going to overcome their ship. And then all of a sudden, Jesus stepped out and walked on water. And he defied physics. He defied the impossible. He did what nobody conceivably thought was possible. And if he can do that in your life, no matter how great the pain, no matter how great the turmoil, no matter how hard the moment, no matter how broken the relationship, no matter where you're going, no matter where you came from, God will always be there. And I think that as Christians, I think that as people of faith, we are called to constantly, in those storms, lean into that faith. There's a reason that in the Bible, I think that God says the faith of a mustard seed, because he breaks it down to where it's so simple. Yet we overthink it. We're like a mustard seed. It's a hard thing to wrap your mind around whenever it comes to the faith of a mustard seed could move a mountain. But true faith, naked faith, the faith that you have whenever you wake up out of bed and you take that foot, you slide it over to the side, and you step down. And you know for a fact that your foot is going to land on solid ground because it's been repeated. Because every day you've woken up and that foot has landed on that ground. I look at my daughter, she's 1 year old now, and for the first time she was over at my parents' house, and we had her in a rocking chair that was actually my rocking chair growing up. And the really cool thing about it is that she was rocking back and forth, and we were all standing there staring at her, and you could tell that she wanted to get out. And we could tell that, in her mind, she was trying to process, if I get out of this, am I just going to face plant? If I get out of this, is my foot really going to land on solid ground? And that faith of a child, that faith of that true self, that naked self, the self that hasn't fully gone and discovered those boundaries of our human abilities. You can just see in her eyes, and you can just see in her complexion, the nervousness. And as that foot steps out of that rocking chair and lands on that ground, there's just this moment on her face of oh, maybe I can do this. And then slowly her arm moves and the other foot starts going down. And then slowly she just starts angling her body down to really understand whether or not she's going to get caught or not. Not if mom and dad are going to catch her, not if the grandparents are going to catch her, but if something there is going to catch her. And as she releases, for a split second she stands, and then bam, she lands on her bottom. But she didn't cry. She didn't fuss, because she realized, and all of a sudden she recognized the fact that if I take this little leap of faith, if I take this step, there is solid ground. And that's the beauty whenever it comes to being a child. That's the beauty whenever it comes to our true selves, our true nature. I think in the Bible, that's why it references it so many times, children, it's just blind faith. As you get older, you kind of start establishing these things. And that's part of the problem is as you get older, you kind of learn stuff, and then you got to break stuff. And as you break stuff, it kind of causes you to second guess whether or not that faith was a reality. And I feel like as I get older, those moments of faith, those moments of challenge just seem to get harder and harder because there's more and more things that I'm trying to distance myself from. There's more and more things that I'm trying to get away from. There's more and more things that I'm trying to escape from. And what I'm realizing day to day, moment by moment, is that if I look for God and if I look for Jesus and I find that faith in the moments where everything is fine, when the water's calm, when it's crystal clear, whenever there's nothing going wrong, then the moment that that turbulence starts coming into my life, the moment that things start getting a little crazy, the moment that I feel overwhelmed, if in the calm I'm practicing that faith, if in the calm I'm taking risks, if in the calm I'm trusting God that he's going to catch me, then when that storm comes along, it's a lot easier to take that faith of a mustard seed and to move that mountain. But the most important part of all of it is that in my power, there's nothing I can do to move that mountain. It's only in the power of Jesus Christ. And it's only in the power of having that faith, having that love, and understanding the fact that as that child climbing out of the rocking chair, that it doesn't matter what happens, God's going to catch me. Whether I fall, whether I hurt my toe, whether I break my back, God will be there regardless of the circumstances, regardless of what I've done, regardless of how far down the path that I have gone. And that beauty in itself is unbelievable. So I encourage you, if you had a chance to listen to this, take a second and reflect. Think back in your life about moments whenever you thought the impossible was not going to be overcome. And I can promise you, if you really look back and you really do some reflection, you're going to find moments in your life, if you look in the right way, where God picked you up off the ground, where God picked you when you would not have picked yourself, where God lifted you up as his child that loves you no matter what your circumstances. So embrace that. Embrace the fact that God loves you, that he gave his son for you, and that no matter how dirty, no matter how hard, and no matter how far away you have run, he's got your back. I pray that you find that peace. And I pray that no matter where you're at today, that you can truly embrace and that you can truly accept that love, regardless of your circumstances. I'm learning this more and more every day myself. And it's going to be a continual process until the day I die. But I choose to accept that love because he's giving it to me.